Hey folks, it's Brian. Video number 2 on Elderath. Now this one the other one dealt with character creation and system issues and stuff like that. This one will be about the adventure we actually played last night. So, as you may recall from the previous Far Horizons video, Dylan and party went through a gate, woke up in Elderath, specifically in a convalescence room in the Church of St. Cuthbert in the village of Hamlet, recovering from a goblin ambush where we were rescued by Duke Kirk and his Griffin Riders. I fancy kind of stuff here. And our memories of Dylan and the Galactic War and the CSA all sort of drift away, and these memories of Wes and being a squire and the College of Wizardry come flooding back in. So, after we recovered, we're brought over to the end of the Welcome Wench, where Osler Gundy Goot feeds us for free, and we are asked to tell our story. And Raymond, who's the cleric, gives as truthful a story as he can give without being too embarrassing about us getting our asses handed to us by goblins. And Alexander, the thief ranger, interjects with fast talk, try and cover some of that stuff up. And he gets called out by a couple of guards. I heard it from Kirk's guys, that kind of thing. And so he does the ranger rogue gets into his face. There's an almost confrontation. The cleric jumps up and gets between them. Gentlemen, we don't need to fight about this. It's not that important. We all survived, and the goblins are gone. That kind of thing. Things start to settle down again, and we continue with the story. And when we're done, the sergeant of arms here gets up and says all able-bodied men are to meet out in front of the inn tomorrow morning or tomorrow at noon, where Lord Rufus will address us all. So I get a room for the night. The Rogue Ranger did, but Raymond goes to the church. I and Toth, who's the monk, get rooms here in the inn. Next morning, I write a letter, and it goes by post back to the capital where I live, Telgar, which is about 3 days' ride, to request that my armor and a dozen lances be brought here to Hamlet. Well, and my shield too. So for real fighting, Wes has a mail hauberk, and a heater shield, riding the lance. Right, for real fighting, that's what he does. That obviously affects his magic so much that he can't really do any magic in that situation. So in normal fighting, he's got Kibroli vamp braces and greaves and helm, and then a padded gambeson, and then he fights with his rapier and dagger. And that affects his magic enough that his magic modifier, he's got a magic modifier that we use to offset negatives for things like encumbrance or boosting the spell and that kind of stuff. That gets me to it's minus 14.55 or something like that, and I've got a bonus of 15, so it puts me basically even, which is how I had designed, because I initially had seen him with splint greaves, being on a horse is like going to hit more often kind of thing, but that just put my ferrous, because ferrous materials are 5 times encumbrance against magic, whereas against the normal 1. And I've got my steel rapier and dagger, so they both count against me. I'd initially seen him with an iron cap and iron splinted greaves, but that was just way too much. So I just dropped it all down to Kirboli, which is okay on first level. So I do request for because I came down home with my friends. It's the road, gotta make your boli and my padding, that kind of thing, because it can be dangerous. But I'm not gonna be wearing my chain when I brought that down here to visit with my friends. But since we got involved with fighting and goblins, I'm thinking we're going to go back and counter raid against these goblins. So I need to get some armor because my magic isn't really that necessarily effective offensively, and we'll see some of that later on. So I request that stuff, but next morning we get out, we send the post. Noontime, we're out in front with a handful of other folks, and Rufus comes out of the inn with Oster Gundigut, and he says that because of the increased number of goblin raids, they've decided to send a group to recon the moat house in the swamp, and anybody who's interested in doing that to meet here tomorrow. And at that, there's some young guys saying, yeah, I want to go fight some goblins. We'll go do that and this and the other. And there's some older folks saying, the goblin raids are kind to the south. What's going on with this moat house thing? And that's the first thing that I thought of. The goblin raid that happened to us was to the south. There have been no goblin raids to the farmlands to the north, which is where the swamp and the moat house are. So what's going on with this? So I interjected in some of the conversations going, I'm thinking the same thing. Why all the goblin raids have been to the south, right? I know our attack was in the south. Have other goblins been raided to the south? And yeah, they're out in the mountains, and those are all to the south. And so we're like, why are we going to the mountain house? Why are we going to the moat house? So I kind of planted that or boosted that seed they already had, and reinforced my own. But not much else happens that day. I do take my horse out for a run. My horse is my prized possession. He's also the most expensive possession I have, and so I try to take good care of him. And I tip the stable boy every day. Keep an eye on the horse, make sure he's doing okay, feed him good oats, that kind of thing. Excuse me. So next day we meet up with Rufus and his guys, and it's just a party that shows up. And he explains that there have been reports of movement and stuff around the moat house, and you got to be careful because the moat house was the crossroads of a war 90 years ago between Telgar and Goldak, and so that there are undead in the swamps and around, and there are these giant man-eating frogs all throughout the swamp. So be careful. Just go and scope things out. See if you can't find out if there's something really going on or not. And so off we go. We follow the trek around. As we reach the trail, actually reaches a point along the coast, and then goes over to the swamp. And as we hit that point, Raymond notices out in the shallows of the water ship masts sticking up. So there are some shipwrecks out there. Put that in our notes for later, and we continue on toward the swamp. Now there's a bunch of discussion. We can get into the swamp proper by nightfall if we wanted, or we can camp outside it. I'll camp outside it. So as we're getting close to the swamp, we notice off to the side something that looks like gallows to somebody at first. We go and check it out. It turns out to be just a big pole setup where people can put up their perishables, so they're not, like a bear bag, right? You put it up in the air so the stuff doesn't come around to get to you. And it's like a campsite. And so I'm thinking, okay, good. This is a used campsite. We should stay here. It'll be good. But as either Toth or Raymond notices tracks leaving the camp area. Normal human tracks and then some beast tracks. And they go out. There is no sign of these tracks coming into the camp. Excuse me. So Toth gets really paranoid. He's like, we can't camp here. We can't camp here. We can't camp here. Let's get close to the swamp. So we go about a half hour further in, close to the swamp. It's starting to stink, and we can hear these giant frogs cricketing and jumping and splashing in water and ponds and stuff. Going, I think this is too dangerous. We're too close. We're gonna get attacked. And we can actually start seeing these eyes light up in the swamp from our torches and stuff. Guys, we need to go back. So we went back about halfway, 15 minutes. We set up camp. It still stinks here. Thankfully, I've got a perfume tissue or perfume handkerchief. So I keep trying to keep my nose clear. We take camp. They make fun of me. I take first watch. Nothing happens. Raymond takes second watch. Nothing happens. At the end of second watch. I was in a third watch. No, I don't think it happened second watch. It was the end of third watch when Toth noticed one of these giant frogs just slowly trying to creep in towards us. Wakes everybody up. I'm thinking giant frogs. They're going to be biting on us. I should probably protect my arms and legs. So while I'm sleeping in my gambeson, which is not an issue, I'm strapping on my greaves and van braces. While I'm doing that, everybody else apparently has bows. They jump up, get their bows out, and one of them fires, hits the frog, I believe in the head, the first shot. And at that, the frog leaps out towards us. And so the second shot goes off and gets it in the leg. And Toth notices that the underbody seems to be softer, fleshier than the rough, hidey outside of the top. But it lands, and the ranger gets off the next round, shot. Oh, actually, before that happens, the frog does his attack on Raymond. Sticky tongue comes out, sticks to him, is getting ready to pull him in. Toth tries to attack the tongue, and Alexander, the ranger, fires his bow. He gets a critical hit on the head. Puts the frog right out. Well, at this point, I'm done putting my greaves and van braces on. We all kind of converge on the frog. It is stinking. And they're checking it out, and it's got these sharp, pointed teeth, not pointy, razory like a crocodile, but really long and pointy like a snake. And so Toth breaks a couple out for his collection, I guess. But they notice two of the fangs are hollow for injecting poison. And at that, Alexander wants to get one of those poison sacs. And so Toth kind of cuts off the lower jaw. They flip it over so that he can get out without getting teeth all over his arms and stuff. And he's digging away where he thinks, where he would expect it to be. These poison sacs are close to that tooth, that kind of thing. And he ends up puncturing it, and it squirts out, but he gets out of the way. Surprise for the other one. It squirts out as well, but it doesn't get out of the way this way, so it gets on his leg, and it starts to get all nummy, and his leg gets weak. So the cleric does a heal poison thing on him, and there's a discussion on poison, the use of poison, and being evil. And there's a disparity of opinions between the GM and at least two of the players. We'll see how that works out in the end. But anyway, so Alexander takes a handful of his arrows, dips them in the poison sack, gets poison all over him, wraps them in a little leather bag, ties them off so that he's got poison arrows. And then by this point, it's getting daylight. So we, eat breakfast, break camp. Oh, no, we do. There's like another part of the watch that goes by. So we all sleep, and Toth is on watch now. And Nothing happens the rest of the night. Morning we get up, start to break camp, make some breakfast, and Raymond's thinking giant frog legs. So he goes over to the giant frog, cuts off one of the legs, flies all over and stuff by now. He just kind of does what he can to wash it off, keep the skin away from the meat, that kind of thing, because the frog's skin is all icky and you can see that kind of thing, right? And apparently it tastes nasty. Anyway, we break camp. We go into the swamp. We find the moat house. There's a small uprising of land in the swamp, and there's a major motion of stream that comes, or creek that comes towards the moat house and splits around it. So it's a moat house, right? We can see that there's a western turret by the gate that's been broken at the top, and the western wall has been broken down. As we get up close, there is a drawbridge, and it's down, and the gate itself is open and kind of broken. All very old, not very well taken care of, obviously. We don't find any tracks or anything around. And Toth goes out using his staff to check, towards the wood as he's going through. And he finds a soft spot and bypasses it. Finds another soft spot, bypasses that, and gets through. So we're trying to follow his exact footsteps. And I'm last. As I'm going through, I just step in on a soft spot. I try to recover, and I miss my dex saving throw, and I fall into the stream. And I can't really swim, but I'm going to try to swim towards my house, get to the back of the edge. And I actually made it. I rolled like a 4, and I've got a skill of 18 as a baseline. So I get to the far side. The guys get together. They pull out some rope, lower it down to help me out. I try to climb up, and I get part way up, and I slip. Oh, while I was down there, scrambling up the edge of the moat on the moat house side, I see something underneath the drawbridge slip into the water, because I can see some movement in the water ripple, right? So I'm scrambling to try to get out. I try to climb up, but I end up slipping on the rope. Something grabs my leg. I start yelling at the guys, and so they just start pulling on the rope. But I just hold on, and get up and out. Toth looks over the edge. It's just seaweed. So I get up. I'm soaking wet. I stink. I am miserable. We go through the doorway. Actually, as they're pulling me up, they're actually into the courtyard part of the moat house. And I think it was Alexander Raider, one of them, reaches down, helps me up over, and I get up and we go on in. A mess, a complete mess. So we go to the courtyard. We can see there's the tower to the west. There's a doorway there, an actual door there. We see where the wall is broken down. We can see the main house part building across from us, and there is a double door up some stairs, and it's closed. And so I'm thinking, the last thing we want is something from the tower coming to get us as we're going across this place. Those are double doors. And everybody else kind of scans around. We don't see anything, so we go to the door. Raymond opens the door, goes in. There's a bunch of crazy stuff, so he starts checking out crates. As he's doing that, Toth and Alexander stand in the doorway, just kind of watching, and I kind of do, okay, rear guard. I pull out my rapier and my dagger, and I'm watching behind us, checking the gate and checking the double doors, make sure nothing's happening. Raymond's not finding anything. Alexander and Toth go in. Alexander starts going up. There's some stone stairs to go up. Starts going up, and there's like cobwebs or spider webs and stuff all over the place. Right? So okay, there's a giant spider here. We all know that. And Alexander starts going up the stairwell, and the spiders get webs thicker and thicker until there's like a tunnel to go up the stairs. So he lights a torch, starts melting, spider webs as he's going up. After a certain spot, there's a side trap door that springs open, and the giant spider comes out and attacks him. Toth runs up, Raymond trying to dodge out of the way, and Raymond goes in, I think. So there's a couple of attacks. I hear the ruckus. I turn, look up. I see the giant spider. So I tried doing the sleep spell on the giant spider. That's where we got this huge discussion on, okay, the first level sleep spell is sleep 5, which means it can put 5 first level people to sleep, or any combination that adds up to 5 levels. So we get a discussion on, okay, what does a level mean in RuneQuest 3? And what's that equation out to? And I still don't think I understand the way the GM understands how this works in application. I think I do. I'm thinking it should be a power versus power. On 5 people. That's what I'm thinking. I could also see that each of these levels is a modifier, so I could affect up to 50 power points worth of people, which is still pretty high. But there's no resistance roll written in the rules unless that's what the R to the side means. There's an RM next to the spell. I need to ask what that means. Because he just interpreted that he gets a roll, but the question is, I've got 5 levels of spell attack coming on. Do I need to boost this? Is it an attack of 5 points of potency or what strength against his power? In which case, I need to boost it with 2 more magic points so I get that power, that potency, that strength up to 15 against his power, or how does that all work? And we kind of talked through that for quite a while to make sure we understand. And anyway, the spell didn't work. The giant spider made a saving throw. They continue to fight up there. Next round, I tried the spell again. Again, he made a saving throw. I did look at maybe doing a different spell, but the next one that I would have done was like a distraction spell, but he was already in a fight, so I want to keep fighting, so that didn't make any sense. So I just keep to the sleep until it actually works. I can figure out how that does. And then I didn't even roll to do my spell attack. He just did the saving throw. I just roll my spell attack, right? So I did make my spell attack roll. It went off. But he made a save. So they do some more fighting, and the spider jumps back into a spider hole and disappears. So Raymond continues on up, melting the spider webs until it gets to the point where there are spider webs everywhere. So we all get torches, all lit up. We start melting the spider webs on the 2nd floor of this tower. And as we get rid of the spider webs, we see 3 desiccated human remains, 2 goblin remains, a desk with a chair on the ground, and a chest. So we check out the bodies, and I noticed that the uniforms on these guys are from the Fog time. Anciently, 900 years ago, there was the war here, and the Fog or Forg was in charge, or that's the name of the empire. So I haven't quite figured that piece out, but that's what these uniforms are. So these guys were not killed by the giant spider and sucked dry. They died here hundreds of years ago. And we look at them; they are mummified. There's some dried mud on them and that kind of thing. So how did they get up here? That's a big question. 2 goblins are more recent, so we figure those are spider kills. Check out the chest. The thief rogue Alexander. Well, he doesn't have thieves' tools. He's got a pick, and manages to get the lock open. Opens it up. Inside was once clothing, just kind of meshed down to dust and threads. So he kind of doesn't want to stick his hand in there necessarily, but he tips it up, and dumps some of it out, uses his boot to kind of move stuff around. Doesn't see anything, so I walk over, I grab the chest, and just dump it upside down. Nothing in there. So, let's look for a false bottom. So Alexander starts looking for a false bottom. There's actually a trap. He gets pricked with a needle. He feels a little woozy. He doesn't realize at the time, for that matter of fact, I didn't either, that it was a trap and it's poisoned, but the poison was so old that nothing happens. There's some joking going around there with us as players. Which reminds me, I did not get a live play on this one, mostly because I wasn't set up right when we started playing, and I just kept, because we're still actually doing character creation at this point, because I was still writing down all my equipment and their encumbrance and figuring out what all that stuff was. So no live play, sorry. I should have it next time though. And so, okay, well, open up the trap, and there are 3 scroll tubes in there. So, we also notice on the bodies, the 3 human bodies also got killed by the spider because they have holes in them like arrows, and one of them has got a crushed skull. So that's how they had died. So we get the scroll out, scrolls. We get the 3 scrolls, and then there's again discussion on game mechanics and how the world works, and is it possible to look at a scroll to see what it is without the scroll going off? And from a previous discussion, magic books, magic scrolls, whatever, all written in a language. And if you don't know that language, then you're not going to be able to use it. So the first thing is, do you know the language? And then the second thing is, will it go off by itself, or can I just go look at it and see what it's about, kind of deal? So after a little discussion with that, we start checking it out. The first one, don't recognize the language. In fact, nobody recognizes the language on that one. Second scroll, again, nobody recognizes it, but it's the same language as the first one. And then the third scroll is again an unknown language, but it's not the same as the first 2. So we search the desk, we find a key that looks like it should fit the lock. And I notice that the chair, the right arm, looks different than the left arm. It's like bigger. And so we're looking at the bottom, and Toth goes, "Hey, look at this." He finds a little button-like switch. Alexander uses his dagger to push on it. There's kind of a little click sound. Nothing opens, but we do see a seam along the edge. So we open it up. So the hinge, if it was a normal arm, the hinge would have dropped open and something would fall out. And we see something that looks like maybe a dagger or something. We pull it out. In fact, a wand. So we have a little discussion about wands, and do we need to identify it first, or can we attune to it? What does attuning involve? And attuning involves the sacrifice of permanent power. So that's not going to happen anytime soon necessarily. So okay, we need to get this back somewhere where it can get identified. And at that, we hear a hiss, and the giant spider attacks, and that's where we ended the session. So the next one, which actually won't happen for a month now, because we won't meet on Christmas weekend, and can't really meet Christmas week either. So it'll be not the following week, but the week after, which is the normal time, which is like the 9th of January, will be our next game. Happy gaming.